Well, that was more technical difficulties. Apparently, I can't go live from my phone, so I'm using my laptop's webcam. That should be fun. If it's not one thing, it's something else, right? Nobody's here yet, so just gonna leave this up and dig right in, do a little painting. So we'll see how it goes. Oh, somebody did pop in. I don't see. This is definitely different than the other one I've used. So we'll just play it by ear, and I'll try and keep an eye on chat as best I can. So if you're here, welcome. Enjoy hanging out and painting with me, I guess. Hello and welcome to Clock Tower Game Studios. Sorry for the glare. Again, things didn't work out the way I had hoped, getting things streaming from my phone. So streaming from my webcam is going to be a pain. Oh, hey, Keith. Welcome aboard. Gonna paint me up little tiny Danny Trejo in terrible backlighting, so you're not going to be able to see anything but me, sadly. Technical difficulties and the joy of trying to fight with community standards, guidelines, and rules of YouTube, I guess. So here we are. But so paint scheme wise, he's shirtless, but he's got some heavy cybernetics. He's got a weapons belt that has what looks like some grenades on it. He's wearing some combat fatigues with a stripe down the side of them, which I kind of have an idea for. And then he's got some work boots slash combat boots on that doesn't look like they're armored or anything. They might be steel-toed. Wearing a big old crucifix. Looks like he's got some good heavy details of some like armor plating, subdermal plating under his abs and his face. So I'm going to paint him to kind of match some other cyberpunk models I've got, because I think Danny Trejo would be an awesome addition to any crew. You always need muscle, and he's got some awesome cybernetic arms, so he's going to be some hands-on aggressiveness, which I think is going to be fun. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the pants, and I like the stripe they have down the outside of them, especially down the outside of the leg seam. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint that bright red, I think. Give it a nice blood stripe because it'll pop. It'll look good on a model that's otherwise going to be a lot of blues and grays. Let's see what reds I brought with me. One of the downsides of traveling is I don't have my full hobby kit and I don't have my full paint rack with me. But we can make this work. So we're going to do up some Citadel corn red, which is like a nice, rich, kind of maroonish red. And I'm going to use a little bit of water that I have standing on my wet palette here. And I'm going to water that down so I can get a nice kind of runny consistency without destroying the opacity of it. That ought to be good. And then I'm just going to carefully try and paint into that seam. And I'm doing this first before I paint the pants, because painting the rest of the pants to miss this deep recess is going to be easier than it will be to go back and paint the recess after I've already done the pants, because I know how steady my hands aren't, and I'd be really likely to end up screwing up a perfectly good paint job trying to get this red paint into this narrow little gap. Oh yeah, that already looks pretty snazzy. So Just keep some fresh paint on, keep my consistencies pretty much the same across both goes, because I liked how that just flowed right off my brush. This may take 2 passes to get the vibrancy I want out of it, but that's okay. Almost there. And start back at the hip and go down again. So feel free to ask questions in chat if you'd like. Even though it's just you, Keith, I'll be more than happy to answer. Or if you just want to hang out and hobby at home while I'm painting, that's fine too. I don't know if you've noticed, but I get bored in hotel rooms pretty easily these days. Not bad at all, if I do say so myself. And then I'm all alone again. That's okay. I know this isn't terribly exciting to watch in real speed, especially with the terrible backlighting. Welcome back, or welcome if this is a new viewer. So far, all I've done is paint the red stripe that's going to go down the outside of his pant legs. And I've got about 50 minutes left because I need to leave at about 7 to go get dinner. There's a good ramen place here where I'm at for work that I'm really happy I get to go have tonight. It's one of the few positive things about traveling to this particular city. All right, so I got that done. Clean up the model a little. I got a little dusty in my travel kit, so yeah, actually, I commented on that yesterday in the live I did on Instagram, but normally at home and usually when I travel, although for whatever reason, despite having more space than normal because of the short trip, normally in my hobby kit, I carry poster tack, like blue tack, and I have some paint pots that are older Citadel paint pots that are a little bigger than this, but they're hexagon shaped. So they've got a nice solid shape to them, and they've got a nice divot on where the lid for them to open was. And I just work the blue tack into that divot and then stick the base of the model on it and then use that as a painting handle. But in my rush to pack this week, I forgot to pack one. So I'm doing it the hard way. And yeah, it is a lot harder on my hands. And I end up handling the model a lot more too, which ends up rubbing off paint. I end up having to go back and touch things up a lot more this way. Definitely should have packed my my painting handle, but here we are. So now I'm using a dark Prussian blue from Vallejo's model color, and I'm going to give the pants a nice navy finish. And this is just base coating. So I'm just getting color onto the model, blocking in my colors, and being careful not to make too much of a mess of it. The only detail I'm really hitting at this point is that seam in the outside of the pant legs, because like I said, going back and doing that after I've already done the rest of the pants would just be really inconvenient. Because I already see that I've managed to get red in places I don't want it, like on the top of his boots. So I'm going to have to go back and touch that up already. But did that answer the painting handle, like clipping the model to something, questions of satisfactory? Because yeah, that's definitely a thing I should have done. Oh, come on. I should mute my phone. Flying again tomorrow. So yeah, it definitely helps. One of the downsides of aging is it makes a lot of things that used to be really easy in the hobby world much more difficult than they once were, including holding and manipulating tiny little models, which is unfortunate. But here we are. So I used a new wash technique on these, or priming technique on these, and I'm curious if it'll pay off or not. And we should know pretty quick here if it's going to or not. So I used an oil wash to prime because I printed this model and a couple other models off in a hurry. Oh, tweezers are right out. There's no way I could try to build these tiny little guys with tweezers. That just the idea of that drives me mad. But yeah, so the oil wash technique that I used, you just take standard oil paints and then you water them down. Well, you don't water them down. You dilute them and make a wash out of it using mineral spirits or white spirits, or paint thinner, basically. I use mineral spirits because it doesn't have the same strong toxic smelling odor as what paint thinner does, in my opinion. And you just mix it down till it's a really runny consistency and it flows really nicely. And the reason I like that over a normal wash under normal circumstances is that it flows better, gets into the creases better. And the reason for that is that there's not any, or there's a lot less, I should say. There's still some, but there's a lot less surface tension. So it doesn't end up causing tide pools where you get the little circles of dried paint around the rest of it. So sorry, I got to check into my flight for tomorrow because I'm going home. Yeah. And I want to be on the best seat in that plane I can be on. Busy, busy, busy. Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting ready to say. There's always more to do, and sadly, never enough time to do it, and definitely not enough time to do all the things I'm supposed to for work, and then still have time for myself and my hobbies, not to mention a social life or personal relationships. I definitely do not enjoy traveling for work the way I used to when I was a much younger man. Hence, instead of hanging out or going out to find a bar to party in while I'm hanging out in a hotel room and I'm sitting in my hotel room painting models. Times definitely change, huh? Better for my liver, though. I would say it's better for my checking account, but that's debatable. Hi. Thanks for tuning in, Kelly. Hopefully you're having a good time this evening, doll. My stream is going a little messy because I can't stream from my phone for one reason or another. But so I'm painting Danny Trejo. I'm working on his pants, painting him a navy, and you can just almost see the red stripe down the side of them. So I'm just throwing in a sloppy base coat, trying to block in my colors. Nothing too crazy. Just the simple stuff right now. But I will be happy to be home tomorrow. And hopefully not traveling for a week or two at least. Well, you got to see something in the parallel dimension. Great. Now Magical Trevor's stuck in my head. I'll probably be stimming that over dinner as well. And here I'm just being really careful to keep the navy blue paint out of the recesses where I put the blood stripe down in the crease of the pants. And yeah, we definitely need some time. I'm like I was saying earlier, 3 flights in 3 days, and yeah, 3 states. I'm over it. It's time to be home for a minute. So I've only got an hour because I want to go to dinner on time. So I'm just focusing on blocking in some colors. And we had a third person join us. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. And so far, I've got the pants pretty well done. I don't see any bits that are really ugly looking. Hey, Justin. JT, it has been forever. Thanks for tuning in. And happy Cinco de Mayo to everybody. So it's hard to see because of the backlighting, but I've got Danny here's legs all primed. They're a nice navy blue color with a red blood stripe down the outside of them. Very U.S. Marines. And it's good to see you on too. I ought to give you a call sometime and chat. But of course, the world is busy and life is lifey. So, one thing I noticed when I went through some of, and yes, may the Sith be with you as well. But one of the things I've noticed in a lot of the pictures and reference materials I looked up before getting this started was Mr. Trejo, and pretty much any kind of outfit he wears tends to wear bright white knee-high crew socks. So I'm going to make sure I get those in here too. So since I'm painting over a black base, I'm not painting with true white to start with. I'm going to use an off-white that's ghost gray from Vallejo Game Color. And the reason for that is pure whites, the pigments in them are kind of difficult to work with, and they take a lot of passes to get good coverage. Whereas for whatever reason, this gray takes a lot less effort. So I'm going to start with the gray, and I may leave it this kind of off-white color. It'll read as white from a distance and still add a nice little punch of brightness to his feet and his lower legs. Try not to get it onto anything else. That's cool. I didn't notice that on the print before, but the socks that he's got on, they actually, apparently the sculptors noticed that too, because the area around his ankles above the boots has kind of a knit texture to it. So it actually has some texture that reads as socks, which is pretty funny. And I don't know if I mentioned it since anybody's joined me, but this is a 3D printed model I ran off from Unit9's Patreon campaign. I believe it was last month's campaign. They do really um, really cool cyberpunk models that I enjoy a lot, and occasionally use real world references like this, which is fun. That's an awkward angle. Well, y'all could have been anywhere else in the world right now, and you decided to tune in and watch me paint a model. And I appreciate that. So if anybody has any questions, topics you want to hear me riff on as I'm painting, I am more than happy to. Let's just try to keep it civilized, because the world's uncivilized enough without adding to it. So, all right. And next up, I'm going to do Danny's boots. They just look like steel-toed combat boots. So I'm going to do the majority of them black. And then I may actually paint like the metal toe cap, because I think that'll be a good look. So, and for this, I'm just using Flames of War Black, which is actually bottled under license. It's a Vallejo game color. I think it's just their flat black. Just get a little bit of that onto my wet palette. And yeah, I think I am going to do the toes a metallic. So I'm going to go over this and just avoid hitting the toe caps so that they're easier to paint over. Actually, the metallics I have are by Turbo Dork. So they're super glossy, like high shine metallics. And I think actually they call for being painted over black. Yep, paint over a black undercoat. So that's what I'm going to do. So never mind, the whole boot's getting painted black. And take this opportunity to clean up some of the messes where I got a little carried away with the white paint on the boots. And that is why we paint fine details deeper and closer to the model that are harder to get to first. So as you're painting the rest of the model, they're easy to cover up any mistakes and messes you make. Saves just a little bit of time. Oh yeah, they are. They're some of the best looking metallics I've used, and I don't even use them through an airbrush like you really should. I don't know how you would though. They take so much thinning. They're super gloopy on the palette. They do look really good though. I'm next time I do another model with some big flat spaces, I might try and find a good place to use the color shift the 40 glasses, because that one turned out really nice on the other model I had, but it looks the best on the big flat rounded surfaces of his shoulders. So I want to find something bigger to do that on because I think it looks really cool. And just adds a really neat kind of purple into blue into glossy metallic look that I don't think I've ever seen produced on this kind of a model scale before buying those paints. Not without a lot more effort than what I'm willing to put into it or able to put into it. Wet blending is one of the talents, well, one of the skill sets that I have definitely not mastered. All right, so he's got some black boots now. He's got some bright white socks. I'm really digging it. All right, so since the metallic I have on hand requires a black undercoat, I'm going to go ahead and get all the grenades and the parts of his belt that I want to be metallic. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and do the whole belt because I think I want the belt itself to be black leather too. So I'm going to do basically the whole belt black now. Which is a little painstaking because I need to be really careful not to go over the section of the pants that I've already done. Welcome back, viewer number 3. Or welcome entirely if you're an entirely new, unique viewer, and thank you for joining. So forgive me if this is a little awkward. This is only my second or third live. I think, yeah, third, maybe fourth. Haven't done them very often or very frequently, so it's a little odd, and I'm still getting used to some of the quirks of it. This is the first YouTube live I've done. I've done lives on Instagram before. Benefit of doing it this way versus Instagram so far is I can actually look at and reply to chat as I'm going. Instagram, that's a lot harder. Thanks, Justin. I'm glad to hear it. But yeah, being able to see the chat is definitely an improvement. I'm sad I couldn't stream from my phone where I have a better camera angle I could have had set up. That would have probably made it look a lot better because of the lighting, but we're making do. And streaming it from my phone would have meant that I could actually have the camera up above, and then I could have watched my laptop screen with it open so I could figure out what the view was like, what my framing was like. Probably could have set it up so you guys could see the model a little better as I'm painting it. But yeah, we're here now. Thank you again for joining. I'm very happy to have company. Hotel rooms get boring. So I'm almost done with the weapons belt with the flat black base coat to prep for the metallic. And then I'm going to go back over part of the belt line, his waistline. I noticed there's some belt loops. And since this is a really pretty simple model overall anyway, I think I'm going to go back through and pick up those belt loops and add that little just tiny bit of extra detail, because otherwise this is, especially from the waist down, is a really kind of bland model. Which, not that it's a bad model, I like the detail on it and the way it looks. I It's hard to say how I feel about that, because like some models there's just truckloads of detail and it makes them a pain to paint, and then there's a lot of the details that just get lost and don't matter. And then you've got other models that are just not detailed at all and look super basic and are not really enjoyable to paint, and they don't, like, unless you're a really amazing painter that can just pull off some amazing optical illusion type tricks, they just never look very good to me. But I think once I'm finished, this will have a pretty good amount of flavor and detail, because the upper body is going to be a pretty stark difference to the lower body. Just finishing up a few little spots on the grenades that I can see I didn't do a very good job getting with the black primer. And then let's go back and hit those belt loops. Sorry, I got quiet. That's just a really hard spot to get the brush into, and took a little more focus. That ought to be good. Okay, so now onto the skin tone. And Danny has some really weathered, reddish, ruddy skin. So this is going to be a fine balancing act, because I want it to look accurate to his actual skin tone as much as I can make it. And I want to tread that thin line of not having it end up looking cartoony and venture into an unhappy territory of stereotypes. And yeah, so we want to represent and respect the fact that he's Hispanic without making a caricature of it. Oh, a couple new viewers. Welcome aboard. You picked an awesome time to join. So I'm, in honor of Cinco de Mayo, I'm painting a cybernetic Danny Trejo. And I've got the base coats done on basically from the waist down. And I'm getting ready to do the flesh tones of his bare chest and upper body and his face. Yeah. So for a base layer, I'm going to use red leather from the Flames of War range by Vallejo. These paints are a little thicker than some of the other Vallejo paints, so they take a really good shaking to get spread evenly. So the reason I want to put down this red leather base coat for his skin is it adds a warm red tone to the undercoat. So as I layer up his skin with more, the actual appearance of a skin tone, it'll keep some warmth and add just a little bit of depth and realism to it, and hopefully come out looking a pretty happy shade. So it's going to look a little ugly for a minute, but that's just part of the process. I need a little water. There we go. So here on my wet palette, I'm just mixing a little water into my paint because it was a little bit thicker than I wanted it, and I want this to just flow right off the brush. There, I've overloaded my brush. There we go. If anybody has any questions or anything you want to chat about while we're here, feel free to put them in chat. I am keeping an eye on it, so. Let's see here. Man, this is tough because he's got like little plates on his skin I'm going to have to paint around, so that's going to be tricky in some places. And his whole back has like the cybernetic framework for his arms, so they've got like extra strength pistons going up into him from his back all the way up into his shoulders. So getting this into the areas I want without getting it onto areas that are going to end up metallic is going to be a little tricky. Here we go. There it is. Oh, so small details. So we're just really carefully avoiding any areas that I know I'm going to want to put that metallic over. There's more metallic in his arms than I thought. I may. No, because I did that with the other model that has cybernetic arm replacements. There's a four-armed character from Titan Forge's Patreon, I believe, that has cybernetic arms that I've done before, and I did them with Turbo Dork's 4D, and it looks awesome. But I don't want this model to be too samey because they're probably going to end up being played in the same forces whenever I get them on the table. So I definitely want them to stand out and look different from one another. So I'm probably going to end up painting the arms on Danny here more of a chrome, because I think that'll look sharp and has plenty of cyberpunk flavor, because that's one of the cyberpunk taglines from the old Cyberpunk 2020 game was oh, how did it go? It's been so long since I've played that. I think it's chrome for skin, and wow, it really has been a long time. I remember that it was lyrics from a song by the main character of the rulebook, Johnny Silverhand, who had a cybernetic right arm that was chrome. But I can't think for the life of me of the actual lyrics. You know, probably would help if it was a song that I'd actually heard, not just read. But, you know, what are you going to do? It was the 90s. Games didn't have the budgets they do these days. Especially not nerdy nerdy role-playing games for the uber nerdy countercultures like cyberpunk is. Oh, that's a tough spot. So he's got this giant chain with a crucifix on the front of it. Maybe I can use that 4D color shift paint on the crucifix and chain to make it pop and stand out from the rest of everything. That'd be pretty sharp. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. That'll give me an excuse to bust that out, add some vibrant flavor and color to the front of the model up higher. Just means that there's a lot of itty bitty details that I have to paint around. And it's a little nerve wracking. There we go. So, how many of the rest of you are hobbyists? I know if Callie's still watching, she is. And Keith, I know you do Gundam, which is not exactly the same, but has a lot of the same skill sets and tools that you use. Losing viewers. I'm asking too many questions. I guess I should just get back to talking about the painting. So I've got the initial base layer on his. I miss the tabletop, the giant D&D table. I miss playing in that game in general. So for those not in the know, Justin and I used to play D&D in the before times, and there was a giant table at his dad's house that we would play on. That was this perfect homemade Franken table that was like random bits of plywood and a giant office desk, and it was something else, and it was awesome to play on because it wrapped around where the DM sat and had kind of a 180 degrees facing towards the players, but it was such a big table. There was room for probably, there were only ever like 6 of us that played at it, 5 in the DM, but there was probably room for another like 3 or 4 people at the table because it was just massive. And it was always a good time playing over there. Awesome. That is the perfect way to celebrate Cinco de Mayo. So the next thing I've got to do on the model, I've got to do his face and neck. And that's going to be tricky getting in around that necklace. So I'm going to hold the model upside down and come in from the other side. And that's the way it should be, Justin. I miss that about our table, especially, is the inclusivity of it. Nobody ever got turned away. Even if a few of them were a little disruptive at times. And yeah, I know we could probably try and play again over Discord or something, but I've tried playing in games over Discord and I don't enjoy it the same way. And I don't know. I think it's the social interaction and the being around the table with good friends that just it's not the same over Discord. All right, he's got these face plates are going to be the end of me. So he's got these like weirdly shaped diamond plates on his cheeks and up high on like his jawline and up on the side of his face too. So he's just going to be dotted with that chrome all over the place, which will look really cool. It'll be a nice contrast to the darker skin tone I'm going for. That'll be really sharp, but it does make getting the paint where I want it and keeping it off of the parts where I don't want it a pain, a big old pain. There we go. Got to keep my brush hydrated, especially doing the fine detail stuff like this where I'm painting using the very tip of the brush. It dries out really fast, and you end up with just like the one little dot of paint that dries on the very tip that ends up making it hard to get the paint to flow off the brush how you want. So I probably have missed a bunch of spots. Good eye. I'm surprised you can see it with the poor lighting, but you noticed. Oh. So, welcome back, viewer number 4. Um, don't know if you saw the lead in or anything, but making progress on Danny Trejo here, getting his upper body done now, working on the actual parts of visible skin. Right now, I'm doing around his face, and it is awkward and a little bit tedious because it's really fine detail, and there's a lot of little details sculpted into it that are making it a little challenging. But we're getting there. The fun part is I have to do it twice because the red tone isn't taking quite as well as I wanted. So, and of course, my hands aren't very steady, especially without my paint handle and everything. So, we're just doing what we can do. Oh. And then there's some of the details on the face that are a little softly sculpted. They're not really, well, on the sculpt, I'm sure they're fine, but the fact I 3D printed it means that they didn't, some angles don't resolve very well and print very sharply. So the one side of his face has some softer details that makes it even harder to tell like where his hairline or his goatee ends and where his skin begins. So it's that especially is just going to be a little bit guesswork, which is frustrating because the rest of the model turned out really sharp. But such is life. You can't win them all. They can't all be bangers. Just work with what you got. Get up around the back of his neck there a little. So we got, oh, wow, time's fun when you're having flies, isn't it? It's almost 7 already. Well, y'all got me for about another 10 minutes before I need to go find food. So let's see here. What can we do in another 10 minutes to make this look better? I think I can paint his mustache, his hair, and the chain black to get them ready to get it ready for the metallic over it. I think I can knock that out in 10 minutes. So it's funny. It's actually about where I got on Obi-Wan yesterday for Star Wars Day. I got basically his torso and from the waist down completely done. His arms still needed done, and I didn't get to his head at all until after the fact. So I may do the same thing again tonight and come back after dinner and do some more. Or I may take the rest of the night off and just take it easy. We'll see how I feel after dinner. Hanging out with me while I'm painting. Like I said, you guys could have chose anything in the world to watch. The internet's a big place, and you chose to hang out with me. And that's pretty cool. So I don't know when the next time I'll be doing a live is. I, as always, post most frequently. That's probably a good idea. I'll probably go with that one. But yeah, I don't know when the next time I'll do a live is. It'll probably be a while. Maybe the next time I'm on the road for work, whenever that turns out to be. That seems good. Tell Charlotte I said hi. All right, almost done with the here. And then, yeah, it's dinner time. Because I'm going to go get the most Cinco de Mayo appropriate dinner ever of ramen. That's a good idea. Hotel hangs is a great idea. Ah? Oh, that I'm almost out of time? Or that I'm having ramen? No, it's a good thing I'm having ramen, actually, Justin. My favorite ramen shop here stateside is here in the town I'm in. So I'm actually really excited about ramen, and it's the reason I'm not having Mexican is because I don't get to have this ramen place very often, and I want to take advantage of it while I can. Almost there. So I messed up as I was doing the skin tone, and I got some of the red leather paint on the belt that I just did. So I'm going back over that and cleaning that up right now. And then after that, I think I'm done for now. Because, yeah, no, oh, I want to get his mustache and his hair. That'll only take me a second. And I've still got about 5 minutes left. So almost. It's hard to get this black to the right consistency. It either thins out way too much to a wash, to where it doesn't have good opacity, or it's really thick and doesn't come off the brush at all. And of course, Danny's got some bushy eyebrows. Get those on there too. And for that, it's at a nice angle where it's a raised ridge that I can run the side of the brush along to get that detail. It's a little sloppy for what I want, but there's some spots on there that are going to be the chrome anyway, so it'll give me something to go back and get with the chrome and touch up a little. He's definitely going to be an interesting model when I'm finished. So, if you want to keep up with what I'm up to with the clock tower stuff, you can, of course, follow us on Instagram. I post a little bit to Facebook. I've been posting most on Instagram, though that's still gets the most regular updates. I have been on TikTok a lot more lately. If I get enough followers on TikTok, I suppose TikTok lives could be a thing, but I've got a long way to go for that. I think you need like 1,000 followers, and I've got like 15, which is fine. Slow growth. I know I'm not necessarily the demographic that's aimed at. There are some mini painters on there, but not many. And I'm trying to focus a lot of my content on there, more on the actual game company side of stuff when I've got the chance to. Sadly, I don't really have the chance to very often because of work. But still making progress. Almost have a game table ready. The game room is almost ready. Got to have a room to play in to play games. And got to be able to play games to play test. So we're getting there. It's just slow. Life happens. Usually all at once, and especially over the last couple years. All right. I'm just going to do a couple quick touch-up spots, like under his nose there. There we go. I think that's about everything I'm going to get tonight. I'll see if I can move things around and give you guys a little bit of a view of what I've got. Actually, I have a fill light. That might work. There we go. It's a little washed out, but it's better than what it was where you couldn't see it all. Turn the light down a notch. So I've got the skin tone mostly done. It needs some touching up. I painted the crucifix and the chain black. The little armored external panels on his belly are black. I did the weapons belt, his boots, all black. I made sure I got the socks in there, and I did the navy pants with the red blood stripe. So those are pretty cool, and I'm so far pretty happy. He needs a lot more work, but that's a good start. And my time is up. So it's time for me to go get dinner. Thank you all again for joining me. It has been a blast. I got to interact with you guys a lot more than I got to interact with people last night on Instagram. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully you all enjoyed hanging out and watching me paint and ramble about what I'm doing, because that's pretty interesting from this side. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get off here. All y'all have a good night. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Be safe. Awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Justin. And of course, the long-standing sign-off is, remember, it's always game time at the clock tower. I love you too, doll. I will catch up with y'all soon. Have a good night.